this week's edition of On the Money with Secure Money with Brian Quaranta of Secure Money Advisors. I'm Rebecca Powers. So happy to be with you all. Great to see you as always, Brian.
Great to see you, Rebecca.
All right, so you know I've read your book many, many times.
Yes.
It is so short and easy to read, and it really was a game changer for me. And we share this book with every single one of you. So make sure you call the number we're getting ready to put up, 888-382-1298. No matter where you are in our beautiful city of Pittsburgh, we want to make sure every single one of you gets this book. Brian, you even pay for the shipping and handling because you know that it is so important for people to be empowered and educated.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They will get that shipped directly to their house. It'll show up in the old-fashioned mail.
With postage
With
paid.
postage paid. That's right.
And then another thing, when you call that number, we want you to get a complimentary meeting with Brian and his team. It's that first review. It's a right track review. Are you on the right track? More importantly, have you had these conversations with your current advisor? You know, in my husband's case, he's from Sewickley, and I'm not from here, but you know, in our case, we never had these conversations.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. You know, I will say that the thing that we hear most in our conference room, because we really do roll up our sleeves and dive into strategy.
Yeah.
And we're not just using canned software to do it.
Right.
We're really crunching numbers with people on the calculators, in Excel spreadsheets, really getting the numbers right so that when we do finalize the plan, we have a plan that we can feel confident in. One that also has been evaluated and tested for worst case scenario.
Right.
Health events happening, big stock market drops. So you really have to work with a fiduciary planning firm that's willing to sit down and take the time and really roll up their sleeves and get into the planning process and get into it in depth.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're doing there.
And have those conversations.
Yeah.
Because it's not just you walk in, you give them your name, number, age, and then boom, cookie cutter. This is the opposite. This
Correct.
takes many months. It's not just a one-time thing.
Yeah, it's a process, you know, getting to know somebody and what their concerns are. Everybody's concerns are different. However, they're similar, right? Even though they're different, they're similar because Secure Money Advisors is dedicated to working with people that are 55 and older. We do work with younger folks, but those are usually our clients' kids or even grandkids. So, but we're only working with younger folks when they're referred to us. And so for us, it really is about making sure that we spend the time to understand not only what their goals are with the money, but also understanding where they're at. And in order to understand where somebody's currently at financially, it's not just looking at their statements.
Right.
It's looking at their statements, but then taking those statements and evaluating it through the third-party software that we have so we can get the proper data points to be able to make recommendations to improve the overall strategy. And you know, that software is looking for tax efficiency, it's looking for risk, it's looking for the fees.
Right.
And fees are a big one because fees will reduce your gains and they will also compound your losses. So we want to be very aware of what we're paying. I don't have a problem with somebody paying fees.
Sure.
What I have a problem with is what are you getting in return for the fees that you're paying? And these are the things that we can uncover during that meeting.
And there are also some fees, like in our case, my husband and I, that we weren't even aware of, and that happens too. And the law allows it in some ways.
Yeah. You know, so if you want to know exactly what your fees are, especially if you're working with, like, let's say a company-sponsored plan like a 401k, you can request a statement of additional understanding. And that statement, a lot of people don't even know that it exists.
I've never heard of that.
Usually I've got to call the company to get it, but that's where you'll really be listed out all the fees. And we're hoping that as time goes on, Congress changes the law so that people can actually see what they're paying in fees in their 401ks and their employer-sponsored plans, because most people think that they're not paying anything.
Right. They'll say, oh, I'm paying 1%. No, probably not.
Right. Or they think, well, my 401k doesn't charge me anything.
That's
because
what I thought.
There's no disclosure on the 401k of where the fees are coming from until you read the fine print.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And boy, you know, you think you know things until you find out what you don't. I know loyalty, and I love that about so many of you guys. Everyone is so loyal. Oh, I've had my guy for 22 years. I don't want to change. But what is the change process?
Yeah.
When you do want to go to a different advisor.
Right.
Does it cost something? Do you have to write a letter? I mean, how does that work?
How do you get out from where you are?
Yeah, you have to break up with them? I mean.
Yeah, how do you fire somebody?
Right.
Well, that's a great question because I don't think people understand that they can transfer their money from one financial institution to another financial institution without incurring taxes or penalties on retirement accounts. Now, if you have accounts outside of retirement accounts, you definitely want to be careful that you don't trigger a taxable event, but there's ways of doing that. For example, the IRS gives us the ability to do something called transferring in kind, where we're just taking the investments from this financial institution and moving them directly to this financial institution. So typically when we're moving money, there is no cost, taxes, or penalties to do it. Sometimes somebody might have a closeout fee on an account of maybe $50 or something along those lines, but really no big cost. And if there is going to be a big cost, we're going to be fully aware of that before we would even execute transferring the money. I think the bigger thing, though, that you brought the attention to is how do you break up with the relationship?
Right.
Because that can be really tough on people. And that's the one that actually keeps people with a firm or an individual that's actually not doing a good job. And that is a problem because the loyalty should be to your money and to your retirement.
To yourself.
And people, unfortunately, they don't like conflict, right?
Right.
Nobody really likes
Nobody
conflict.
does.
But what we always tell our clients as they're getting ready to move is thank them for everything they did. Thank them for taking care of you up to this point. But things have changed. We've had to make some additional decisions, and right now we're just going in a different planning direction. And if anything changes, that you would keep them at the top of their list. And that's the best way to approach it. Yeah. But I will tell you one thing that really people get offended by sometimes.
Okay, this should be
and
good.
that is, a lot of times you can electronically transfer from one financial institution to another. So you can send a request that these assets be transferred to the new financial institution. Well, these folks are expecting they're going to get this call from the financial advisor that they've been with for 15, 20 years, and they don't get one phone call. And they go, I can't believe after 15, 20 years, this guy didn't even call us. So that's a real eye-opening for people, and it usually goes, we should have moved 10 years ago. So, but moving from a financial planner is not a hard thing to do. It really is easy. Matter of fact, in the book, I write about how to fire your current financial advisor if you're unhappy with them. If you go to onthemoneyoffer.com, you can get a copy of the book, but while you're there, schedule a Right Track Retirement Review. During that review, let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect. So first off, we're going to go through 5 key areas with you. We're going to talk about your income. We're going to talk about your investment strategy, your tax strategy, your healthcare strategy, and your estate planning strategy. We're also going to determine what are your biggest concerns. A lot of people don't know when the best time to collect Social Security. They're scared to lose a large portion of their money because they just don't have the time to recover. People want to learn how to create a stream of income by getting themselves their own private pension. They want to know about how to create tax-free money in retirement. They want to know how to transfer the money from themselves to their beneficiaries without the IRS becoming the largest beneficiary, which when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about how big of a tax hit you can take when your money transfers from you to your children the day that you die. So, but right now, go to onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of the book, schedule the appointment, or my team's standing by to take your call right now, and you can schedule. It's 1-888-382-1298.
And we'll be right back, more with how you can retire on the right track right after this.
See, everybody can tell you how to invest your money. There's not a lot of people out there and a lot of firms that can teach you how to use your money. Most people will also tell you that they're scared. And the reason they're scared is because they're afraid of running out of money.
The last thing you want to do is have a really good job into your 60s, retire, and be looking for work again in your late 70s.
The average person might say, well, a good portfolio would be a good mix of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. No. A good portfolio is all designed around the 5 key areas: income, taxes, investments, healthcare, and legacy planning.
We're not just product pickers here. What we do best here is we build retirement plans.
9 out of 10 people, when they walk through the door, would ask us, we just want to know if we're on the right track. And I always say, if you're not on the right track, when would be a good time to know it? Probably now.
People, can actually see a vision once we start to really build out their plan.
This is about you. if you're not getting what you need, and you feel that when you walk out of the advisor's office, it's time to get a second opinion. And you can't get a second opinion from the person that gave you the first opinion. The difference at Secure Money Advisors, as a fiduciary firm, we help you manage the risk, build the income, and give you the retirement you dreamed of.
All right, welcome back. I saw that spot, Brian, you were drawing on that whiteboard, and those were the different buckets that we've talked about so much, and you were showing that nice family, your bucket strategy. Let's talk about, and it was so eye-opening when I started doing this show, the power of saving tax money. This isn't $10, $20, $30, $40. This is if you plan correctly, for instance, taxes on IRA. If you plan out 10, 20, 30 years, you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, correct.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Or you could wind up paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, you know, there was a great article in Money Magazine about 2 years ago about a son that inherited his father's $500,000, so $500,000 retirement account. The son was the primary beneficiary of that account. So the son gets notice that his dad dies, that he's the primary beneficiary of this $500,000 retirement account. So he calls the company. He says, my dad's died. They tell him what to do. We need a copy of the death certificate. So he does everything, fills out the paperwork, sends everything in, and a couple weeks later, he gets a check in the mail for $500,000. So he puts it in his bank account, and a couple weeks later, he gets a 1099 for $500,000, which most of you know that a 1099 means that that is reportable income. So now he has reportable income of $500,000 on top of the income that him and his wife are currently making. So they're making a combined income of $150,000. So now their tax bill that year is going to be paid on $650,000. The article went on to say that the son owed over $245,000 in taxes that year. That's half
of what his dad worked for.
Of what his dad worked for. And these are the things that we have to be aware of, because there's been some big changes to the IRA laws that cause us to pay a lot in taxes when it transfers to the next generation. So there's something called a stretch IRA that you can do, but there's very specific rules that you have to follow when you do it. It's also known as the inherited IRA. So if this son would have known that this inherited IRA existed, he could have transferred the money from the dad's retirement account to an inherited IRA. It could not go into the son's IRA. It has to go into a special inherited IRA. And then there's a 10-year rule that needs to be followed on how that money is distributed. So if his son would have done that, all $500,000 could have went to the inherited IRA. He wouldn't have had to pay a dime in taxes.
He would not have lost a penny, but he lost $250,000, half of it.
Half of it. But the IRS would require in the first year that he does that he has to start to take out money, right? Called a required minimum distribution. Just like the IRA owner would have to take out at age 73, an inherited IRA owner has to take that money out at whatever their age is at the point in which they inherit it. But done correctly, you could save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars on taxes, because the money comes out a little bit over a 10-year period, controlling the tax distribution on that money. So these and many other strategies to save on taxes and even create tax-free money. And that's something that everybody should be working towards, because your largest partner in your retirement account is the IRS. And the sooner you can buy them out and get them out of the picture, the better it's going to be. So think about it. The IRS was a, 40-50% partner in his dad's account?
Right.
Had his dad known that was going to happen,
never would have done that.
He would have never done that. Ever done that. So again, these are all things that I write about in the book, Right Track Your Retirement. Get a copy. Go to onthemoneyoffer.com and get a copy.
Do you think that so many people think of tax planning as, oh, I've got a good CPA? They're two very different things. Talk about the major difference. Tax planning is not the guy that does your taxes from last year. Yeah,
that's right. So tax planning is, we're saying, okay, you're 60 years old and you plan on retiring the next 5 years. We should maybe start to look at converting some of this money. Now, depending on how much you're making at work and what your tax brackets are, there's this calculation that you would want to do to determine whether or not doing this would be beneficial. But take somebody that's got $500,000 in an IRA account, and over the next 5 years, let's say we could convert $100,000 a year and go from a taxable account to a tax-free account. So what does that mean? That means I've got to pay the taxes when I transfer the money, right? But I'm only paying it on the amount that I transfer. But now, this is very important, folks, to understand. Now, every dime of interest that you earn in that account, as that account grows and it gets bigger and bigger, it goes from 500,000 to 600 to 800 to $1 million, all of that money is tax-free. So now if you take a withdrawal out to live off of, all of that income is tax-free to you. And if the income is tax-free, that means you don't have to worry about taxes going up on your Social Security or your Medicare premium going up because you're earning too much money, or your overall income tax bracket going up. And these are the things that you want to look at to see how you can maximize your current situation going into retirement. And that's what getting on the right track means.
You make a good point, because it's also, you're paying the current tax rate. So it's like you're paying on the seed instead of the harvest.
That's a great point. Or even better yet, look at it like this. When interest rates drop,
okay,
on, if I have a mortgage and it's at 6%, and interest rates drop and I now can refinance at 3%, does it make sense to do that?
Of course.
Of course it does. It also makes sense to refinance your tax situation.
Ooh, I like the way,
when rates are low. And so rates are low right now, and this is when you look to refinance or get the IRS out of the picture so that all future distributions and all future growth is tax-free to you. And these are the things that you want to do in planning to make things a lot simpler. So now, if you did that, and now the money transfers to the kids, right?
Yeah.
All of that money transfers tax-free to the kids. So there's benefit beyond benefit beyond benefit by doing this type of tax planning structure. And there's so many other tax planning strategies. There's tax loss harvesting and conversion strategies, and all kinds of ways we can flatten out taxes on IRAs and create a tax-free bucket, even with a tax-free death benefit. But you don't know what you don't know. That's the problem. You don't know what you don't know. Your investments, your strategies, they're only as good as the people that you're getting the advice from. And if they're not educating you and you're not learning about these things, how are you going to implement any of these? That's why we take the time to do the TV show. We take the time to do the radio show every week. We take the time to provide our clients with a weekly video email on all the things that are changing in the tax laws, or Congress changing things on IRAs or Medicare or whatever it might be, so that our clients are informed, and informed people can make good informed decisions. Go to onthemoneyoffer.com, get a copy of the book there, but also schedule your Right Track review. During that review, we'll find out what your biggest concerns are, and we'll help you start to build out a plan that gives you clarity and peace of mind. I always promise this. Nobody from my team is going to sell you anything. We don't sell anything at Secure Money Advisors. We are a fiduciary firm that helps you solve problems, and that's what we want to help you do. OnTheMoneyOffer.com. Go there, get a copy of the book, and schedule your appointment. Or my team is standing by right now. You can call 1-888-382-1298. and schedule with us today.
And they even pay for the postage. Want to make sure you get that book. Also want to make sure you get that appointment that Brian mentioned. And by the way, that appointment is zero cost to you. And they'll explain how that's possible when you come into the office. Stay with us. More on how we're getting your retirement on the right track.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back. Okay, we're talking about your retirement, how to make sure you have a plan in writing, take out the guesswork. with inflation and so many uncertainties, we're going to talk about purchasing power in this segment. What's the importance, Brian, of not compounding losses to maintain your purchasing power? And how do you take inflation into that kind of risk factor, I guess?
Yeah, well, good question, because the two things that are going to erode your wealth faster than anything is going to be taxes and inflation.
Okay.
So the example I always give is if you need $1,000 from your retirement account and you're in a 20% tax bracket, you withdraw the $1,000, you pay the 20% in taxes, and now you have $800 in your bank account. But we know that legislative risk is a risk that we deal with when we're dealing with our retirement accounts, and that is Congress changes the law and increases the tax rate. So now taxes go to 30%, and now your $1,000 withdrawal doesn't net you $800. It only nets you $700 because you got to pay a 30% tax rate now. Now add inflation in on top of that. So inflation now drives down the purchasing power of that money. So just through taxes and inflation, you lose purchasing power. And the thing you really have to protect is your purchasing power. And this is why tax planning is so important, because tax planning at least gets rid of one of the variables, and that is the tax rate that you'd have to pay on the withdrawals for your income. If we have enough time in planning, and we have enough time to utilize a strategy where we're converting to tax-free money, now it doesn't matter if we're taking $1,000 out. If tax rates are at 20%, you're going to get $1,000. If they go to 30%, you're going to get $1,000. If they go to 50%, you're going to get $1,000. Why? Because every withdrawal from a Roth IRA, Roth 401k is tax-free. Very, very, very important for people to understand.
And it's so important for those of you at home that don't know, the current tax bills are about to sunset in what, about a year?
Yep, that's correct.
End of 2024 or 25?
25, I believe. Yeah, don't quote me on that, but yeah.
So we've got about 2 years to do these major conversions that could literally save you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's right. And this is all...
We don't know where it's going to go. You said 30%? They could also take away Roth conversions. I mean, we don't know.
We don't know. It's been one concern I've had for a long time. And
really?
when you're allowed to do something as great as converting to an IRA.
Do it.
And here's the other thing, too. See, for higher income earners out there that don't qualify to do a Roth IRA because you make too much money, you do qualify for a conversion. So it doesn't matter how much income you're earning, you can still convert taxable money to tax-free money. And that's one thing that's missed by higher net worth individuals, is not taking advantage of that conversion because they think they can't do it because they make too much money. And that's just not the case on conversions. It's only the case on contributing to a Roth but not converting.
Oh, wow. See, I need to write that down. You always teach me something.
That's the whole goal.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, if you're just joining us, make sure you call the number on the screen, because we want to mail you this book. Even pays for the postage. It's a great way to get started to track your retirement. Very simple, easy to use. And one of the chapters, my favorite chapter, is chapter 2, where you say, will you have enough to stay retired? That is 100% of Americans who are surveyed about their biggest fear in retirement is running out of money. But the name of the chapter is Think Like a Pensioner, Not a Gambler. Will you have enough to stay retired? This is not rocket science. You don't have to live in fear. You have figured out a formula, and you walk us through it.
Yeah, and look, my formula is decades old.
Right.
It's just that most of the planning firms out there, and I know because I was with the big box firms, and we were taught to put together diversified portfolios in the stock market. And if people lost money, we were told to tell them not to worry about anything, that everything was going to be okay, and that they're in it for the long haul. And that's just not true. That's managing someone's emotions. You're not telling somebody the truth, because, you know, financial advisors that recommend risk are the same people that tell you, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know what's going to happen. But when your account value goes down, they're the same ones that'll tell you, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Well, how can you tell me everything's going to be fine when you don't have a crystal ball?
That's right.
You can't see the future.
So which is it?
Yeah. So what it is we need better diversification. And so thinking like a pensioner and not a gambler means that we need to set aside monies that are non-correlated to the stock market. That just means that they're not going to do with what the stock market money does, right?
Right. It's protected.
They do completely opposite of what the stock market does. And this is why I believe that the 10 best secrets to buying an annuity are this, and I wrote them down. So number one, you relish in serenity, because imagine the tranquility that comes from knowing that your future is protected, right? Knowing that you've got peace of mind, that your income, the thing that people are most concerned about, right? Running out of money and not having enough money to pay their bills, that's taken care of.
Right.
That's taken care of because you've taken the time to do something really smart that smart people do, and that's insure their income. Look, if your stockbroker was that great, why do they need your money? Why wouldn't they just be trading their own money and buying an island and sipping martinis all day?
Such a good point.
Right? So why do they need your money? So if they're risking 100% of your money, you really need to think twice about that, because it's really easy to risk somebody else's money, especially if you get paid a fee or commission to do it. Now, I don't care that you have money at risk. What I care is that people are risking too much of their money.
Right.
Right? And even my clients, I had a guy come in, over $3 million. And, he's got plenty of money that if he wanted to take money out of his account each year, he could do it. But he wanted about $100,000 a year in income. And so I said, look, if we just carve off a third of your money, $1 million, in a couple years, we could generate over $100,000 a year from this annuity.
With that alone.
With that alone, guaranteed for his life. If he dies, guaranteed for his wife's life. And if they both were to die prematurely, the money in the account pays out to the kids, so you never lose control of the money. This is smart planning, right?
Yes,
and then the $2 million can stay invested in the market. But these are the things that you want to know about, folks. Go to onthemoneyoffer.com. Schedule your Right Track review with us today. You won't regret it. You'll get a lot out of the meeting. My promise to you is that nobody from my team is going to sell you anything. We're going to help you solve problems. We're going to help you understand. We're going to understand your concerns and help you solve those concerns. So schedule your appointment there at onthemoneyoffer.com. But also, just pick up the phone and call us. The team's standing by right now to get you scheduled. 1-888-382-1298.
And so many of the points that Brian is making today, if your advisors have not asked you and not had these conversations with you, you're the prime person to call. And remember, you cannot get a second opinion from the person who gave you the first. It is no cost, no obligation, and we really want to mail you our book. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.